Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have ourselves a slightly traumatized cast here because you know who's coming up? It's Burning Core.
Don't say that name, Sam. Don't say that
Yes,
name. Don't say that
side
name.
of the Hawks. Bluntly, it has been a terrible, atrocious, abysmal. There are so many negative words and sentiments you can throw towards Burning Core this split. They have not looked good. The game yesterday versus Sengoku. Fiesta is a term to put kindly.
Fiestas have fun. It's a party. That was just a dirge.
Unfortunately so, and yes, we're being harsh, yes, we're being critical, but bluntly, this is a lot of potentially very good players who are playing not very good League of Legends. Serious credit over to Nightmare and Midnight, of course, for making that game as entertaining as you could do, considering it was a lot of players just failing to make engages, looking very nervy, not making much happen on the map, and it was a long, drawn-out, and slightly painful affair.
Yeah, it was. And one of the reasons we hold Burning Core to, like, we're all saying so many negatives, and not just saying, oh, maybe they'll develop and stuff like this, that we know these individual players can do so well. Last summer, we saw them take DFM, who was struggling at the time, then did recover in form, to 5 games. They lost in the 5th. And that was, of course, with a different mid laner, and we thought that Gadiadu would be an upgrade in some ways, being one of the more venerable members of the LJL. Another Ray Farkey once had been one of the strongest top sides in the league when they're on form. We just haven't seen that. I didn't think it could get worse than last split, and yet here we are. But they have one last chance, even though they are locked out of playoffs now, I believe, to try and give us something to go into 2021, to give us something to believe that they aren't just flailing and have no future within this league. This is a chance for them to at least regain some pride for themselves, and they'll have to do that, of course, versus the Hawks, who need to pick up that one win to get themselves into playoffs, to make sure that they can see off any competition.
Absolutely, and the thing is, in some ways, might be a rough one for the Hawks. Just lost a very close game, bit frustrating, kind of started slipping away for them towards the end of it. But maybe this is an opportunity to bounce back, and we can see how that works, of course, in this pick and ban coming right up.
For sure.
Hawks will be over on the blue side, Burning Core on the red. Appleman, Tussle, Dasher, Zenit, and Corporal still rounding out the Hawks roster. On the other side, though, got Ray Farkey once, Gadiadu, Yuki, and Proud still rounding out Burning Core. Bans starting to fly thick and fast, though.
Oh, so Graves taken away, because that's actually, so that is one of Once's main carries. And we've seen a resurgence of lethality Graves. We saw this a bit before the item rework, and we saw lots of Dusk Blades and Ghost Blades and Edge of Nights, where you could just be a one-shot threat. Now with Eclipse, having that ability to chase down with the movement speed for the 2-hit passive and going into stuff like the Collector, Lord Dominic's Regards, you are such a powerhouse with the Dark Harvest, even to just one-shot someone from across the board. You're also a great Serpent's Fang user, which is very important in this current meta, because if you can build it against enchanters, it is one of the strongest items in the game. Anyway, that's banned. Enough said about that. That's a champion we've seen plenty of this week and the last couple as well. Ziggs, flex pick extraordinaire, being hovered by the Hawks.
That it is. It can go down towards Zenit. It could go towards Dasher, of course, as well, who's had a couple of his high-priority AD mid laners taken off the table in terms of the Aurelia, which, of course, had some recent changes. That W is now a bit silly. Alongside the Lucian, Gwen still off the table, no surprise. Does leave Viego up if Burning Core feel happy to do that. They had a game earlier in the split where they were miles ahead with once on the Viego. It was looking phenomenal. It was versus the Hawks, in fact. And Dash's Aatrox made them cry as they couldn't build enough anti-heal at any point early enough into the game. And instead, it will still be the Viego locked in. Dasher and the rest of the Hawks saying, well, we did it once before, we can certainly try and do it again.
Can do. So, with the Ziggs, that removes a lot of options to try and play around various areas of the map, because in most lanes, I'd be like, oh, this nullifies bot lane. You can't play anything down there. Well, Yuhi and Proud have not really done anything anyway. I mean, we had a bit of a meme in 2020 spring when Burning Core briefly showed us sparks of real hope and joy. And that was mainly when Yuhi was on Phelios, actually. That was the meme that we had. He was just like the Phelios one trick that couldn't succeed on anything else. He's going back to the Ezreal, which is at least provides some range. It's harder to get poked out on. But I actually think that Ziggs is one of the better matchups into Ezreal.
Oh, really?
Because Ezreal is used to have uncontested poke, much like the poke Varus. And then Ziggs says, hey, I have 2 pots and you only have 1, and I get to throw out poke even more often than you do. And I also get to control the terrain in a better way that you do, so you can't take the extended trades. That's very dangerous. And of course, Leona's locked in alongside.
As your Qs hit minions, if you throw your bomb over the wave, then you could trade without the Qs being able to hit from Ezreal.
And if you wave clear, if you clear through the minions first, then you get to shove it into tower and get uncontested poke. That was one of the strengths of something like Sivir, right? All the way through their history, they just hyper push in lane. It's non-interactive, and they just get to put you on the turret and say, here's a Q. And the Ziggs bomb does exactly the same thing. It's like, we pushed in the wave, and now you have to look at the minions. You can't just ignore them and trade back on me. This would be a very interesting pick if it is locked in for Gadiadio. Of course, he's had his time being an initiator, being a playmaker. I'd actually love to see his LeBlanc coming out again at some point. Not going to be the mid laner locked in just now, though. Of course, the Viego could be flexed into there. It's the Yuumi instead for Proud.
And in fairness, Once and Proud with Yuumi plus carry jungler have done incredible things in the past. You can see how it would work on something like a Viego. So I wonder, does Yuumi drop off if you use your or try to pick up another champion?
So I don't tend to like playing with or against Yuumis.
Okay.
So I don't know that interaction.
I've not exactly. We'll have to wait and see. There's a little bit of a food for thought.
I'm not exactly a fan of bot lanes, which are already not doing so well in my ranked games, going even worse because they have to lane 1v2. So even if I am pulling out the Viego mid, not something I've seen quite as much.
All right. Got to call out here as well. That Leona combo with the Ziggs, of course, could still be flexed. We called it earlier, and that's exactly what happened in the Rascal just DFM game. But Temporal really rates it. I know, obviously, he was on the desk earlier and thought it was a strong choice. Couple bans come through here. Rise away from Dasher, Jace away from Apperman. It's the Diana, another one of those strong AP junglers, assuming that maybe the Viego get flexed alongside Ray Farkey's infamous Darius, just not going to be allowed on the table.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons that, of course, the Leona is very strong with the Ziggs is kind of along the same lines of one of my favorite compositions of all time, which has spawned in the LJL, which is Kiana Jones and the Carpets of Doom, where you have a Kiana ult into Rumble ult, and they're just kind of stunned there for forever, and they take loads of damage from a very high base damage ability. Ziggs has some of the highest base damage in the game. I would love to see Quinn. That would be awesome. It's not actually going to be locked in there, though, sadly. But because Ziggs' ult flight time has been decreased by such a large margin, if you have Leona's full combo on someone, of course the drop bomb is just going to drop straight on their head. So in the same way, you pin someone in place for long enough that the damage is almost guaranteed to hit at that point.
Exactly that. It's pretty scary to watch. There's the Trundle locked in as well, which suggests Trundle either top or jungle, interestingly. And they're hovering an Orianna here as well, so between minefields and pillars and the ball and the solar flare, that is a lot of zone control.
I mean, there was a really good video posted on Reddit, probably a month or two ago now, of Trundle's 1v1 matchups at level 1, where he just runs at you, auto-resets with his Q, steals your attack damage, and at that level, it's such a lot of stats for that point, and you can 1v1 even people like Darius, Aurelia, all of these different champions. If you go up there with their necks in, there's a chance that Apperman actually just starts shredding through it. The Azir, however, makes your life a little difficult. Of course, the Pillar makes him a little bit worried in return, but that Emperor's Divide can stop this Trundle from doing much of anything.
All right, there is the comps. It does mean we've got a Ziggs towards the bot side. It also means no AD carry, not a lot of AD for the side of the Hawks. Not huge amounts of tank frontline stats for the side of Burning Core, though. It's not like they can build full Spirit Visages. Visage, very British, and a Visage, there we go. Of course, could still go on to, I suppose, Ray Farkey, and there is a world where the Viego can go towards that tank build, if that's fallen off somewhat. Do want to call this out, though, that it does appear to be Tussle on the Trundle. It's a bit unusual, of course, because Tussle's Volley Bear has been by far his best champion this split. 4-0 win rate on it, 8.0 KDA. Every other one has been kind of stuck down towards like 2.0 KDA. Not necessarily bad games per se, but it's been a lot of like the Shinzo game. Got things happening early, and then you're like, okay, I have to go, and my team's kind of died. This sucks.
And I remember having a question ages ago, and like having to think about this about what constitutes a good KDA. Because back in Season 3, Season 4, that was a little bit more easy to kind of tell because there were so many solo kills in lane, much more individual plays and stuff like that. And you used to be saying, oh, if you get like a 3 to 4 KDA, you're doing well on your champion. Getting something like an 8 KDA in the current meta, though, when you are banking around early plays so much on an early impact champion that snowballs the game, it's still a good score to have, but it's so much more easy to get those higher KDAs nowadays, it feels like.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Damn KDA players. Ever
Is
since
that how you're excusing your KDA in solo queue?
Oh no, I'm a KDA player because I play the skin. So,
I mean, I'm an Evelyn player, so
no, we're both KDA players, lovely. Although I'll soon be a Coven player.
Yeah, exactly. I'll buy that Evelyn skin. Like, right, I can take my money on that
It
one.
was a happy day in the Hapgood household.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've become a corporate shield purely for that Coven
Hell
skin. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Some legends say that Nymera's Ari purchases rival the sales of GDPs of small countries.
Says a lot about your degeneracy, really, doesn't it?
Yes.
Instead, let's talk a little bit more about this game. Lots of zone control, as we said, from the Hawks. Fair amount of poke, really, between an Orianna and a Ziggs with the front line. But it's pretty bruiser heavy. It's pretty, honestly, mid-game spiking. On the other side, you know, like Azir, Ezreal, Viego. That's some big carries the later the game goes on, but not as much front line. And I wonder how easy it will be for them to navigate fights and navigate the terrain to be able to unleash the potential damage they have available.
For sure, because, I mean, you look at double mage mid-matchup, not something we see so much of nowadays. We kind of talked about this in maybe 2 games ago now. Actually, it might have been during our first game. It could have been the second. No, it's probably during the second one. We're talking about actually having higher damage junglers and top laners, and even supports to an extent as well, because they can also be a front line as well as a damage threat with stuff like Gwen W, Renekton ult, Xin Zhao ult, building GAs early, stuff like that. They can provide damage that you are missing out on from going from an earlier game mid or AD carry and kind of not having to go towards the hyper carry yourself. Now we have that back in the mid lane. It does change the flavor of things somewhat. You can stall out the game a little bit more. I'm interested to see if that leads to a difference in playstyle, because of course the Hawks didn't really manage to survive in the late game last time. Are they going to go towards that again? Burning Core, of course, had some very late game fights recently. I remember them very well. Didn't really lead to a lot of kills. Not the best game ever.
Well, here's hoping that we don't have a repeat of yesterday's game, yesterday's performance from Burning Core, for the good of Nymera's mental health, if nothing else. But we're on to the Rift. Tussle stepping forwards alongside Apperman, Big Bruiser, top side of the map between the Volley Bear and the Troll. But just a 5-man fan, not a huge amount to write home about here for either squad in this early opening stages.
So, no level 1 shenanigans. Of course, you don't have anything like a Brawl, Morgana, Nautilus, your usual suspects when it comes to invades. That kind of level. Gonna be the Comet Azir, which is something we're seeing more and more, because actually Poke Azir is very potent.
Yes.
It has been ever since the new items. I guess you can go something like a Leandries. That's okay, particularly on that champion. You know, it's kind of more towards your playstyle. And you do have a lot more HP stackers. You got the Trundle, got the Volibear and Leona. Lots of people that you can start shredding through. And what it means is that you don't actually have to set up perfect solder placement. You kind of brute force your way through to higher damage amounts because of your range, because of your WQ combos and all that kind of stuff. Interesting to see how that comes to fruition around Dragon fights, because that could be a turning point for Burning Core. And Galliadu's Azir has been a big playmaker for him before. It has allowed him to take control of the game by the scruff of the neck in a way that Burning Core has sorely needed.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been, previously a very good Azir player, so one can hope he can pull it out. But we said same sort of things about, like, say, his Orianna, but Orianna fallen out the meta a little bit more recently. Like, things like the shielding value that she provides, well, there's things like Serpent's Fang now, and honestly, there's so many items, so many enchanters that kind of do it for you now. Sterak's being so appropriate, like, how much extra value is that shield kind of offering to you, really, anymore, with things like Locket and the like still being kind of available for supports very easily. A little bit of an AI edge towards Burning Core, at least statistically.
And then late game it gets a bit,
goes
to pot a bit.
You see the power spikes here as well. Of course, it was a 51% on the stat check, and then here's the power spikes of when teams get stronger, and you can kind of see why potentially that might be the case, even with the champions as they are, because the front lines there get pretty strong. Ziggs late game pretty goddamn good as well. Of course, not like Orianna shockwaves in the late game tickle.
No, absolutely not. Particularly if you have a Viego jumping in, or Renekton jumping in, if you go in a little too early from Burning Core, you just get shut down. You don't get to have a reset, you don't get to get your massive Gore Drinker Q heals, which has defined Renekton's place in the meta for quite a while now, and has allowed him to be... And this is one of the big things, the conversation has changed around Renekton about, he just falls off, you can space him out too much. Gore Drinker has changed that so much.
Yeah.
Because the champions which typically deal with him, the big mages, hadn't phase rush nerf. They've had their items not be so strong. A lot of low range carries are in the meta. And that means that Wraith Archie, on stuff like the Renekton and other players on it too, can get absurd amounts of healing, stay in the fight, and again, be that secondary off damage source.
Both junglers pathing in opposite directions, interesting. Still be around Skull Crabs here, and nothing too much more to write home about. Aquaman did get the early shove on the top side, but I don't think it's going to hurt the attempt at the Skull Crab here from once. And just a little bit of a shove in bot side. That's not really a surprise versus Ziggs, and then single target Ezreal with a Yuumi.
Yeah. Although Trundle coming down bot side, going towards his Krugs, just shielding bot lane for any potential players. Although, I mean, you already got vision on the bot side of the jungle.
Oh, boy.
Oh, you can't keep... Look, this is happening far too often. He just keeps getting caught by Zenith Blades in lane. I think the last 3 games I've cast of him, just 8 something in lane. At least this one doesn't lead to very much. Doesn't lead to summoners being blown. Has a cleanse, has a heal and exhaust, you know. Proud doing his damnedest to make sure that he can get out of there alive.
It has cost him a fair amount of mana, though,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And that means that, you know, he's got no... Tear of the Goddess. He's not stacking that up yet.
Yeah,
We'll kind of wait and see whether he can get that. That's a big shove back into another Zenith Blade, but that one is actually relatively well buffered away from, but now he's out of mana.
So he doesn't have a teleport. Sometimes you'll see that with Yuumi lanes, even though the Yuumi can't teleport back with you, it just allows you to reset whenever at that point. Of course, Yuumi is not a champion to really use time where your AD carry has reset to great effect. You can jump onto your jungler sometimes. It's not really what you were wanting from that lane, really, because Yuumi isn't the best roaming champion ever. Don't go alone into the river. That's how you die as a cat.
But who does get to teleport back in, though, is Zenit, who nearly interrupts the back. But, of course, with that teleport coming through, they get to shove in the wave for free. Yuhi will have to drop some minions to tower, and giving plates over to Ziggs early on can be pretty scary because, of course, a Satchel charge means you can take down towers real quickly.
And we saw this even start to come to fruition in earlier last year in spring 2020, because... And this actually was this is something which I saw a lot from actually one of the university teams I cast quite a lot, where you just pick Ziggs Tristana, you'd pick early game junglers, and you'd end up making really big plays around Herald, because you know if you got Herald, that's a 2-tower push. If you ever manage to get any sort of lead in a lane, then suddenly that's a massive gold swing. That ends up kind of breaking through the stalling point of Ziggs as well, because you know Ziggs was played in Season 8 down in bot lane. It was a thing which Deft played a lot. Back on his team back then too, is that Katie Rolster team. Zenit going to walk into the bot lane. Okay, Yuhi just has to flash to use the E.
Yeah, nearly get Zenit in fairness, but it's still going to cost a teleport from Dasher, but they had the Drake started anyway.
And he was resetting anyway.
Yeah, exactly, he's got the reset, doesn't lose too much, and Yuhi now down. The flash, of course, is still Ezreal, so we'll be relatively safe without it, but yeah, I can understand wanting to try and find a player, get somebody out of position, but you don't really blow all that much aside from a teleport behind you, which is a bit scary.
No, and again, like, this is one of the things about making plays during a mid lane reset. It's kind of dangerous because you know they can TP to a side lane at that point. Just be like, hey, I'll just TP back into the fight. No TPs for this one. Everyone's already coming to party.
That's a big storm bringer using the Heartbreaker, but the only hearts being broken are whoever remains in the Burning Core fandom. First blood goes the way of the Hawks, and once you saw the idea there, tried to contest, gets the pick on Appleman, but he's got level 6, he's got tankiest, and just not enough damage. Ray Farkey hadn't reset, he's on a Doran's shield.
It's on a Doran's shield, and that's it. He had the teleport, and while Burning Core thought that they had the momentary numbers advantage, maybe you can start closing down on tap, and you're absolutely right. He's teleported back. He has his item buys, and he can start following up. Really love the shockwave coming in here.
Oh.
As much as he's unstoppable, I mean, W2 does enough damage to finish off that kill. Just gets absolutely shredded through.
The frenzied walls bring down the Ruined King. Who needs sentinels when you have an Angry Thunder God, it turns out.
No, we must replace all of our weapons with sentinel weapons. Even though people have legendary weapons of importance. Isn't that funny?
Well, there we go. I mean, the people who are actually sentinels don't have that many.
Diana,
I suppose,
Diana
does. It's true.
Legendary Moonblade. That does nothing, I guess.
But... you know, you can have a second legendary blade. If we have 2 legendary blades.
I hope it's not a legendary TF blade. Might be a bit toxic. That's a joke. That's a joke. Just putting that out there now.
Wow.
Haha, it's funny. He mentioned the streamer's name. Gotta cover my back for that one.
I love this. Like, quickly, I must add a disclaimer. I must add a disclaimer.
Hang on. That one might be a bit incendiary.
It made for a good pun. I'll let that one slide. Moving on. Alright, Once has at least managed to get himself a decent farm lead here. He's on the Viego, going towards Divine Sandra will be pretty scary. Of course, Tussle looking for an invade here, though. Trying to make Once's life a bit more challenging. Force him away from the red buff best he can. And with the wave pressure in top and mid, can certainly look into get that. I believe that was
Yeah, went to
secured
once. He gets,
by
he
once,
gets,
at least.
he gets level up, uses the smite for it. Tussle was looking to just do what Treadle does and make himself very annoying. Of course, top lane was shoved in from Admin, so you look at once and you're like, yeah, if that smite doesn't land, you're not exactly going to stick around for a fight after that point, particularly with the roam from Corporal. Why is he roamed up? It's because it's Herald time. They have the Ziggs, they have the lane pressure, they have the top side of the map under control for now. And Burning Core decided to contest in a really bad numbers disadvantage.
Alright, Corporal flashed in with the flank from behind. Viego is dead for a second time this game. That was at the Herald play. True Shot Barrage comes through far too late to be of any real impact in this fight. Gallardo is here, though, with the Yuumi on top, but I don't necessarily know how much Azir is going to get done with the cat on the book.
He's poking them out, actually, so...
Oh,
you
good lord! There's the satchel charge. Well, can't quite knock him back, though. He's going to be forced away from the turret, though, and this is while Hawks are making a play for the Herald.
And this is, well, this is a big thing, right? Because most of the time, when you go for Herald, you end up losing something on the other side of the map because the numbers committed to it. Hawks get a kill on that top side, get a play on the bot side too, rather, at the same time. They get themselves a really big advantage for just looking at the Herald in the first place.
They don't decide to claim the Herald, though they do reset, so at least it's not as bad as it could potentially have been. We'll get this replay now. You can see once and Rayfaki double up here. I think they've got an option. But Corporal, all off vision.
Corporal completely changed the turn of this fight. This is why, I mean, like, obviously the Hawks have struggled this split, and even in some of his other split,
here we go.
Death on top lane looks to happen, he might have to ult out.
Gonna have to try. He's got it. Gonna try and stun him afterwards anyway, even while he's unstoppable. Gonna see whether they can get that Heartbreaker, perhaps. Can't quite get it. Flash from Rayfaki has to be used to secure it.
Okay, Proud is up there to get the hill too, which is important to secure that once and for all. This time it was Proud roaming up, and both Proud and Corporal actually have themselves a similar kind of trajectory in terms of our opinions. Because, you know, we come into spring 2020, into summer, and we've got really high opinions of these guys. Top 2, top 3, top 4 supports maybe if they're not having a good game. But they've been struggling a little bit this split. Corporal's had some great moments, had some less good moments too. But that's the kind of play which reminds you, both from both sides, wait, these are actually at the top of our region. You know, on the right game, and the right setup, with the lanes doing the things that we actually need them to do. Sure. Incredibly talented individuals.
I mean, that's what's made the Hawks and Burning Core so frustrating at points.
Yeah.
Yes, the Hawks have largely turned that around as this split and this season has gone on, and that's great news, especially for a newer org to the scene. But Burning Core, on the other hand, have really just continued to fall apart. And, you know, that's with the likes of Once, Rayfaki, Proud members individually we had down as being some of the strongest in the region. And it's just not proven true this split. We need to see more of that more consistently, honestly, from the likes of Proud. And that turret in the bot side is ripe for demolition, and gonna need some magic out of some of those key carries from Burning Core if Zig starts getting unleashed. And the vision game might be a bit problematic. That's a decent final chapter. He's gonna try and escape, but there's just no zoomies enough in the world to get that on. The stun to prevent the W. The Emperor's divide by space. Dasher flashes over the wall, gets himself a command dissonance to put the cat in the bag.
Corporal has decided he wants to win this game. I can very much appreciate that. Dasher's still brawling. I mean, he knows that. Gary doesn't have the E. He's still at rank 1. Quite a long cooldown at that point. Just muscles out Gallardo from the bot side jungle, using the ball as a bit of a wrecking variety in that place. But Corporal, once again, leading the charge, gets the combo set up for Zenit, who had been poked up, to still follow through with the damage. Doesn't matter how low HP he is. If he's alive and he has ultimate, he's gonna cast it. Damage comes through onto once. He's sat at 0 and 3. Sad state of affairs for the Burning Core jungler.
12 minutes in, it's 3k down. What a phenomenal play from the Hawks. The vision control, you can see Once is here to try and help seal with that. He's got 2 members, but the Hex Flash into the Solar Flare, just so much. Malcolm Inferno Bomb makes it a 4v2.
Pretty much, you know, as we were saying, this is the combo. It means that you can never deny your bot lane carry from doing damage. In the same way that we said, oh, Kalista can't do much damage in certain situations, situational carries, Ziggs has been so impactful because not only do they succeed in a 1v1 between carries after the supports have run, because they have continual wave pressure, not only do they have tower pressure in a way that actually few AD carries do. You're looking at Tristana as the other demolitionist, and that's about it. But they can also combo cross-map like that, and Burning Core were just not respectful enough of it.
Fortunately not. They do have a Herald in inventory, and maybe they can get something done with that, but it needs to be used soon. Only a minute or so until those plates fall, and they would really like some gold back with that Herald they put a lot of effort into securing. Didn't come for cheap, that's for sure. They'll look to maybe go mid. They have Azir here. They summon the Herald. They're going to try and get as much of a shove in here, and at least a couple plates onto this Azir.
And, you know, we kind of mentioned that in the earlier games. He was like, yeah, his damage is very applicable at this point. You know, once you do get up several items, the poke is very hard to deny. Corporal has an angle, has ult. There is a Mega Inferno Bomb again.
Takes out as well.
I was wondering if there was meant to be a play up there in the top river, but I guess with Zenit happily pushing in the tower, just very okay with that. And Yuhi continually under the cosh here, wherever Zenit is facing him.
There's Dark Seal, a Tear, an Oblivion Orb, all there to back up a completed Leandries early on for Zenit.
It's okay now. It's okay now.
Yeah, it really is. And
although Ludens is still a really good item.
Okay, here comes Wants to try and bail out the AD carry, but it's still going to be a 3v3. Gagliardo is here, he's on Vision. Where is Dasher, though? He's looking to potentially punish. Finds that command attack into the distance, but decides no need to use the Shockwave. Doesn't quite have damage to really put that cosh down, but that is a lot of plate gold in inventory. Gold-plated, you might say.
Well, I mean, 5 in bot, most of them in top 2. Yuhi just doesn't have a safe place to stand, and Corporal is still up here. Yes, there's a cleanse. You've got an exhaust available too. He's still very much in danger.
Solar Flare into the cleanse. Mega Inferno Bomb flashed away from, rightly so, because I think that's a sweet spot would have been the demise of the Ezreal. I think Zumi's there as well, offered enough of a heal to get themselves out, but that was a little bit of something, that's for sure.
Close to run the thing. It's not just a HP differential, it's a gold differential too. Wasn't that obvious with the plate gold? Most of it's gone to the Demolitionists themselves. That's a 2,000 gold lead on the bot lane, which has led up to about half of the gold totally for the Hawks, which come out.
Very well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, micro advantages being achieved across the board. Jungle is about at parity, bringing something back for once. He's been farming very well, but they're still at 0 and 3. The thing about Viego is that you go for like 1 or 2 damage items, and then you become tanky. If you are not ahead in the game, you don't become tanky, right? Because you have to stop off with the Sundra first. Potentially you have to go for something like a Blade of the Ring King second. Not normally with the Sundra. That's normally the shield bow into something like that. Once is not going to be tanky this game. You have the Yuumi to keep you in the fight for a little bit, but just because you're lower, lower on your items, potentially in XP as well, because you've not been able to farm, because you've been dying so much, you don't get to survive in the fights in the same way. We mentioned this with the Felios earlier in the day. It's even more important when you are a low-range melee carry like the Viego, particularly against so much heavy burst damage from the Hawks.
Zenit has 2 complete items for you. He's got 1. He's got a Tear and, of course, a Dark Seal in inventory as well. Like, he's got additional things. It's not even like it's just 2 items in a bare inventory there. And, like, the thing is, that is a full Morellonomicon for the 60% healing reduction. Just as Rayfaki completes Gordrick, he doesn't get to use that spike very efficiently. You've got a Viego and a Yuumi as well. Like, so much of that healing is now going to be so much less powerful, so much less potent. So much of what you opted into, because this Morellonomicon comes through so ungodly early into this game. Maybe they can get something on Appaman here. They're very fast, but he's a very tanky volley bear, and he just can't get close enough.
He's pretty speedy too, and he pops the Q.
No cleanse, no chance, no hope, and he is burned down with the courtesy of a Mega Inferno Bomb. Rayfaki takes a bouncing bomb, he's teleported in, but I don't think he can hold this tower, so teleport is down as well, and Yuhi's first death of the game was a foregone conclusion. They get the last outer tower, and they are up 5,000, well, 4,000 gold, nearly 5,000. Yeah, it is 5,000 gold. You know what? Screw it. Okay, I'll hold to it. It's... To one significant figure, it is 5,000 gold. They've got all out of turrets. They've got 2 Drakes. They'll get a Herald.
Sadly, and... so one significant figure, it's actually 0 gold, because that would just be 30k apiece. That's how significant figures works. Yes, I actually have a physics degree. It's what I'm using it for, and the physics of force is forcing in the mid lane.
Okay, if you're just talking about the gold differential, maybe that's enough of the significant figures here, or all the damage numbers, I tell ye. They find themselves to the top duo of Burning Core fall, and the gold lead continues to increase. And Burning Core, less than 20 minutes are out of options.
And one of the most significant characters on the field immediately falls in that fight. Rayfaki goes down for their first fight. We see exactly what happens when you dive in too far. Particularly into the Shockwave, into the bomb and everything else. Burning Core overforce. They look for a play, just as the Hawks were much more clinical onto Yuhi, but this is the thing. I mean, Burning Core do not have their doctorate. They do not abide by the ways of science. They just go and flip the coins in. They look for an engage. It's once. It's the Yuumi ult. But Zenit...
Oh, that satchel charge.
Perfect satchel. And Shockwave comes in after. And this is the danger of overdiving. The tower didn't even need to be there. I don't think that's just a well-played fight by Zenit. But just again, the death from Yuhi into the engage from the rest of the members, just a bit of disrespect.
You kind of see it all here. You know, Fiesril was supposed to be there to allow Yuhi to be safe. He wasn't. Tower 1 goes down there. They get Tower 2 at the top side, and Ziggs Unchained gets to do this much damage, gets this much gold early, and then the wallet discrepancy is massive. There was also the early plays around the Herald, where bluntly, you know, like Ray Farkey not having had chance to reset versus the Volibear, who did have items, cost once a lot. And you can kind of see it all spiraling out. There's no strong point in the map. Gadiadu, Ray Farkey laned okay, once got some good farm, but the massive bot canyon has just left a huge hole in this team comp.
And sadly, we have come to expect this from Burning Core's bot lane. We have, you know, I mean, we aren't surprised when their bot lane falls behind to catastrophic levels. We've seen 1 or 2 good games out of Yuhi, but they are few and far between. And this game has been difficult. We knew that it's not helped by the draft. We know that the Ziggs is a good matchup into the Ezreal. There is a level of disrespect coming through from the Burning Core bot lane, though. And credit to Zenit where it is, of course, due. Playing it to 2AT. Dasher being engaged onto.
Credit to Burning Core, at least they're not willing to wait around for only 2 kills in 30-odd minutes this time, but they just gift another one over. It feels a little bit desperate. It feels like this is the only opportunity we have to fight, maybe get something, and you don't necessarily guarantee the scaling here either. Dasher gets 1, Volibear gets another, and it's 3 dead in the blink of an eye.
This is just destruction from the Hawks. They understand the power points of their composition in a way that I criticized them for yesterday. So showing some evolution, very importantly towards the end of the split as they're looking to march forward into playoffs. And with a win here, they are confirmed for that, I believe. So that would be a huge...
They've got Herald and a Ziggs. They could look for more here if they wanted to.
I wonder if they shove it down into a different lane, because of course getting top lane inhib is the least valuable across the map. They just took it. It's not expiring anytime soon. They take a free tower, use the gold, and maybe they can use the Herald to force a dive later on. Really good flash by Dasher, ends up flashing out. And the first of the pickups from Viego isn't allowed to come through. I don't think actually Viego's been able to activate his passive once this game. It's been very difficult for them. And that has meant that they haven't had the extra HP from the regen. They haven't had the extra round of basic abilities. And of course, having so many champions with great basic abilities from the side of the Hawks, one reset could have turned the tide of any of these fights. Just hasn't been the tune of this fight so far.
It is 1 kill and 1 tower. Those are the positive points that have gone for Burning Core in this game. They got the Herald earlier that didn't really get a lot of work done either. You know, once 0 and 5 has been attempting to make plays with the Yuumi, but it's just not working. The zone control, I kind of was like, is this going to be difficult to work through? And you said, yes, it is. It's very difficult to work through. Here comes the second Herald. Ziggs is here. No, Ziggs isn't even here. He's in mid lane. He's roaming over now.
He's waddling his way down.
Herald charge number 1 claims the tier 2. They're going to try and get a second Herald charge onto the bot lane inhibitor perhaps as well. They'll have a Ziggs satchel charge to try and make even more work out of this. He's walking up behind now. Throw down that satchel and you've got it, but it would potentially still be just a touch too much of a risk. At least until some of that zone control can come through. Gadiadu slowed down, eats a Mega Inferno Bomb into a Shockwave, into Tussle, jumping on down. A second satchel charge gets the tower and pushes once back and gets Proud before he can get onto another carry. Yuhi is there, he stacks Conqueror, but the only thing being conquered is the base. I saw, I conquered, and Burning Core crumble. A little bit like Rome in the face of all the Visigoths coming through, and it is torment and destroyed structures that are left in their wake.
I mean, I know that Nero was Prokofy fiddling while playing the fiddle while Rome burned. Well, what's he gonna do while the core burns at the same time? I was trying to find a way to make that work, and well, Gadiadu could not find a way to make this work either. Backstepping, stepping forward, stepping backwards. He's between a bomb and a shockwave. It's not quite the analogy of a rock in a hard place. It does just about as much damage, however, and that just that last chomp onto the Yuumi makes it that much more insult to injury.
It's a hard knock place, though, I can tell you that. It is looking increasingly dire. Yeah, Ziggs damage versus pitiful numbers, bluntly. Your Azir gets nothing. Your Viego gets an auto attack off.
I thought that was the Gene Wilder speech. You get nothing. Good day. You lose. It's just Charlie and the Chocolate Factory all over again.
Yeah, but I feel like the only people being Augustus Gloop right now is Ziggs, who's been hoovering up gold.
Who's the grandpa? Who's Grandpa Joe? Who do I need to flame at this point? Gadiadu! You're Grandpa Joe! Get up and walk, for God's sake!
Can't walk, his legs have been broken. It's been a tough game, this one. He's got at least an item complete, but still
Wow,
a long
did
way
you-
off a
did you
second.
say
He's got
there's
a
a
Burn
li-
Baron and Oblivion Orb.
Wow, there's a lifetime supply of Ziggs bombs. Count me in.
Just look at the item discrepancy. At least he's got 2, but this is a 2-item spike versus a 9,000 gold lead and now a Mountain Soul. And Appleman's thinking just flashing on in here. He's
pretty tanky with the Starax, actually.
And there's Corporal. Does take a little bit of damage because he's got Eclipse. Just so much tankiness. He's got on the wrong side of the pillar, just about Arcane Shifts over the wall, but he's down at 25%. It's a flipping solar flare. Galliano gets nearly deleted, but that's double carry's gone. Into the backside goes Rayfaki, but his damage dealers have gone. Rayfaki Heartbreakers away, and he'll die as well. I don't think there's any defibrillator in the world that can restart the hearts this time. They're teleporting in, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is game over. They've got a Ziggs, they've got a Shockwave that just about goes wide. Command, attack, Dissonance destroys what's left. Mega Inferno Bomb gets the last. It's an ace. It is the end. Burning Core fall down in critically poor fashion as Hawks will move up to 6 and 6.
And it's not the end of the split yet. Maybe Burning Core wish it was. Catastrophic record of 1 and 10. The Hawks, though, this is a team which has been slowly building over time. Spring 2020, they did finish in last place. In summer, reached playoffs, did bow out in the first round. They're slowly building, and then last split had that 5-game series versus V3. Thought they could maybe go a step further in the way that we thought that Burning Core might do from summer 2020 through into the spring of the next year. Hawks, though, give ourselves a very impressive game to move on with. It is against struggling Burning Core, and we know that there's not as much to take away from that. You can still be very happy with it.
Well, we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have an analyst desk for this game. Don't go anywhere.
We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of a world that we defy. A soul ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last Hearing voices from afar, join the madness when the curtain falls. Risk it all, hold nothing back. Seize the day, we must attack. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding. Only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of a world that we defy. A solar ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we bring to fall?
We're here today to witness the life and extended death of Burning Core in the LJL. It's come here. It's alright.
thought they could be third place team. Oh god, I miss them so much.
It's been a few games back to back now of Burning Core being
Burned at the
bluntly
stake.
not good enough to in the LJL. It's been a tough one. There's a lot of talent on this roster, and this game was a shellacking by the Hawks, mostly precipitated through the bot lane where Zenit on the Ziggs gets to have his way with Yuhi.
And there isn't. When we had DFM yesterday, smashed through Burning Core, we kind of came away from. We said, you have to take away some of that success from being against Burning Core, who are struggling. We know that they have their bright sparks. They have some very interesting picks.
Sure.
They find ways to enable their top and jungle in ways that few other teams have done in the past in the LJL, but it's just not cutting it. It's not cutting it in the mid game, and it hasn't cut it for this entire split so far. So while we do kind of rue what could have been from this roster, the Hawks are happy with this win. They're into playoffs for the second time in their organization's history. Of course, sadly missed out. The third time, rather, sorry, because they ended up getting there in spring as well. But they did miss out in their first split, in building up their consistent performances.
Yeah.
And I'm very much looking forward to see particularly Corporal move forward, because Corporal and Dasher, we sing the praise of Dash quite a lot, but Corporal's roams towards top side, going into various fights and engaging in a way that only really he can. I mean, his learner has been very sick to watch. Has been great to watch, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next week, and then going to playoffs as well, because I think they could be a dark horse team.
Yeah.
We were asking the V3 Hawks game, is this now the battle of the best of the worst teams, these middling teams, or is this actually going to be a team stepping up and moving beyond that? And of course, the Hawks didn't really move beyond that in that point, but this game gives them some hope. It gives them a bit of more a game to settle their level.
Yeah, and I do want to praise Zenit in particular. You know, like, he had a really good game. He was asked, you know, he had the opportunity to carry and did just that. Great game on the Ziggs. It's another look for this guy who
The combo was very, very clean.
we've sometimes said, like, he struggled to transition leads in lane into leads in game, and this game he did exactly that. Looked very, very good, especially after a difficult Callista game that's not entirely his fault. Got focused a lot. There was the one frustrating face check that was perhaps a little unexpected. But, you know, that Callista didn't get to do much versus the side of V3. This time, managed to turn it around. Really good news for them. Last thought before we do cut to a break and hand it over to a new pair of casters. What do you want to see out of Burning Core moving forwards? Because it is looking all but done for them.
When a split goes this badly, you rebuild ship. You have to look at the very foundations of what you're doing, because obviously you found some success in limited points, but you've had one playoffs out of the last 4. It's the team which used to be a solid middle of the pack into third place team, and that just hasn't been the case for this organization for quite a while now. I think you have to stop looking at AD carries. He has been bested by many of our carries at this point. Even CGA have been looking at, you know, players like Milan, who yes has struggled in the laning phase too, but has at least developed. And I don't see this roster developing right now. I think the academy system that's going to come in place could very much benefit this team if they are willing to put in the time, effort, and resources to that. Because this team needs a change in direction. It needs someone to put the rudder in the water, because it's been floundering and set adrift for a while.
Well, to see whether maybe we can see something of a turnaround, to stick around, because it'll be Burning Core versus Axes next up, and on the mics will be none other than Counterfeit and Masked Swan. So looking forward to that. See you after the break.